Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yesterday was the official release of yet another song that was leaked ahead of time, I think. I don't know, I can't keep track of all of these unofficial leaks, but yesterday was the official release of Israel's song, and it's the official release that I care about, and so that's why I'm talking about it now. Now, we've known for a bit of a while that the winner of Israel's national final this year is one Netta Barzilai, and then it was revealed slightly later down the line that her song was going to be called Toy. It's completely in English. I think there's one phrase of Hebrew in there, but I can't quite pick it out, but I don't know what I'm listening for, so I don't know. Music and lyrics by Doron Medali and Stav Bega, so at least partially, if not completely, the usual Israeli songwriting team, I think? Well, I don't know. So it was leaked, then it was released, I've listened to it, and now my thoughts on the song. Alright, so, wow. The very first thing that I wrote when I was taking notes for this review was just a single word. What? And I mean that as a compliment, I really do. This song is like a chaotic, artistic tornado that just bursts onto the scene, wreaks glorious havoc for 3 minutes, and then leaves, but the impression that it made is still very much evident. When I listened to it for the first time, the opening bars of Netta just making the various noises that she samples for the rest of the song kind of had me worried, just in case this was going to be one of those hyper postmodern kind of future art sort of weird songs that would be like embarrassing or cringeworthy or difficult to listen to, that, you know, people would only mock it or ignore it or just generally just make an embarrassment out of it. But no, it definitely builds up into one heck of an actual spectacle. I'm impressed. Israel is not messing around this year, even if you might think otherwise from the relatively unusual style of song. This song melts my mind and reshapes it in Netta's image, and I love it. So let's take a look at why this song is so great. Well, let's begin at the beginning. The sort of not really scat singing various sampler of noises she makes at the start, just like right at the start of the song. Netta lets us know that this isn't about to be just another Eurovision song or on whatever subject. No, indeed, from the very beginning, it is made abundantly clear that this is about to be an unusual performance in all the right ways. She essentially says to you, this is something you've never heard before, so strap the heck in and prepare for the gibleting of a lifetime. And I love that aesthetic. When I call this song weird, I mean it as a compliment of the highest possible order. It's like nothing the Eurovision stage has played host to before. I cannot think of anything to compare this to. But it's not so off-piste that it isn't still contemporary. If you strip back the more unusual elements of the song, what you're left with is still a very current and very catchy offering that really sounds at home in modern-day Eurovision, and possibly the international charts as well. If nothing else, you can't accuse it of being behind the times. If anything, it's actually ahead of the times. It's so far ahead of the curve that we can't even begin to grasp the form this song takes. And if all of that wasn't enough, it has a genuine, real, relevant, real-world message that's highly relatable to a lot of people. The song speaks of how people, especially women, it's predominantly focused on women, but anyone can extract what they want from this song, but how women don't exist just for the amusement of men. Off the back of the whole #MeToo thing recently, this kind of message has received a lot more attention and press lately, and it's about damn time. This is an important thing that people need to understand. So it's good that a song this distinct and memorable and attention-grabbing can direct some of that attention towards a cause as good as this. It's wholesome, really, in its way. And so, literally, every individual element of this song is memorable. Netta's visual style, Netta's musical style, the presentation of the song, the message of the song, and no doubt the live staging. Everything about this song will shove all the other entries aside in its bid to capture your eye and keep it there. For some, it might seem like it tries a bit too hard in that department, but for others, it might work exactly as intended, and that is how it's working with me. Either way, this is a real power play by Israel this year. Well done. However, there is always a flip side to how you might feel about any given Eurovision song, and this one is absolutely no exception. The big, obvious thing with this is that the song is very much in Netta's style, which isn't a problem unto itself, but I do fear that people might willingly overlook this song or refuse to take it seriously just because they dismiss Netta's personal approach to music. They might look at it and sneer because it's not super pretentious string quartet high art nonsense about some really poetic and complex kind of love that us normies wouldn't understand. And frankly, If people feel that way, they're severely missing out, and it's their loss. Nevertheless, though, the slightly larger problem off the back of that is that if people dismiss the song because of the style in which it's presented, they will also dismiss the message. So they'll either ignore it completely, or they'll acknowledge it but then not take it seriously in itself because, oh, well, it's associated with this type of music, so clearly it's not worth paying attention to. Clearly it doesn't matter all that much because it's attached to this. Again, the fault here lies with the audience in question, but it is still something that's worth taking note of as a thing that could very well happen. I will point out, though, that between the frenetic vocal style of the song and the high energy levels and overall momentum of the song's atmosphere, it is rather hard to understand what she's singing in some parts, which she kind of uses to her advantage in her defense. I'm fairly sure that Barbie and Pikachu are mentioned by name in there, though, and while the latter can be willfully misheard as a heavily affected way of saying picture of you or peek at you or something like that, I'm not sure if they can get away with name-dropping Barbie without a get-out clause like that. But she also uses this as a way of saying mother without it sounding like she's swearing. Either that or she is actually saying something that just sounds similar. I don't know, she uses her accent to her advantage, so that is admirable, but there are still some questions in there. Then again, having said all of this, the EBU hasn't said anything about San Marino mentioning Twitter in their song, so maybe they've just given up at this point. But that is beside the point. I just think it's difficult to follow every single word of the song, but it's easy to understand the refrain, and that's the main takeaway of the song in condensed, memorable form, so no harm done. For now though, let's give Israel a couple of scores out of 10, shall we? From my personal point of view, there's no way I can't give this song a 10 out of 10. I mean, really, I was in love from my very first listen. I know some people, it took them a while to warm up to this song. No, I was warmed up to this song the moment I heard it for the very first time. Admittedly, I think it helps that Netta delivers the song with so much raw confidence. Like, if she looked like she wasn't sure of herself, it would be easier to take a dim view of the song and feel like you're right for being a bit put out by it. But no, she is a queen and she slays this song. She has confidence for days in a song that's all about making an impression, and make an impression she certainly does, and on every possible level. I can see myself quite easily picking up the phone for this song in the semi-finals for sure. And as for how it stacks up technically, I think I'll give this a 9, but a very, very high 9. Everything that's present in this song is delivered with the utmost confidence, the kind of defiance that says, why should it be my problem that you're not into my kind of sound? And I truly admire that. My only point of hesitation is that some people will hear the song as weird and then consciously stop there. They'll refuse to give it a fair shot, which then causes the song's message to go unheard or to not be taken seriously because people are too distracted or put off by one aspect or another of its presentation. Granted, that really isn't completely the song's fault, but that's why it's a high 9. It's nearly a 10, it's still a song that Israel can be proud of, it's just that it is difficult to take seriously if you're slightly more closed-minded, so the question is accessibility, but the answer is Netta. I don't see how that answers the question, but it's the answer anyway. And you know what? I'm not even going to ask. I think this is a positive step for Israel too. Since the introduction of their new national final system in 2015, Israel have been in a very good place, and I think this is a step up even from their usual standard, because this is such a massive leap outside of Israel's usual comfort zone. In the past 3 years, we had one ballad and 2 very Eurasian summer party hits that all sounded very much like standard Israeli Eurovision songs of the 21st century, of the 2010s, post-May Feingold, because that was the tipping point where they're like, okay, hey, we need to step up our game and make sure we get back into the final. This sounds nothing like anything I've ever heard before, is the point that I'm getting to here. This song is a massive risk, but it's a risk I can see paying off in droves. Let all other countries take note. You can do off the wall without being silly. You can do different without being risible. You can do something like this and still do it with a straight face without having the mickey taken out of you. And I highly anticipate that Netta will prove that over and over again in Lisbon. So, will Israel make it to the final again this year? Well, I should certainly hope they do. I can see this being a big hit with the public, especially the UK public, though not necessarily for the right reasons, just because the UK is known for having rather eclectic tastes when it comes to voting in Eurovision. Still, if Netta performs with half the confidence of the music video, then I can see this making a real connection on the night. I worry though just a little about whether the juries might try to kill this one, but honestly, there is musical quality here of a modern standard that would be damn unfair to overlook and try to suppress just because it doesn't conform to old-fashioned traditional musical standards. The final would seem very empty without this song, I'll say that much. So, I have been and will continue to be Tessellating Hexagons, and it should come as no surprise that Netta and the entire Israeli team, I wish you the very best of luck. I cannot wait to see how you deliver this in Lisbon. Good luck for then.